From the very beginnings of modern medicine in ancient Greece, the difference between the male body and the female body has been regarded in a sort of hierarchy, with the male being the superior norm, the standardized, stronger example of an idealized human. By the time we get to the 19th century, where we start to see our contemporary medical situation beginning to unfold, the image of the hysterical woman, which is a male-created medical diagnostic category to denigrate women, to make them at the whims of their bodies and irrational minds, really took hold.
And what we have in the 20th and 21st century is we blame it on women's raging hormones.
I've suffered from panic attacks my entire life. The first one that I remember was when I was 7. The doctors would say, oh, well, this will resolve when she gets her period. So somehow this was something to do with being a girl who wasn't menstruating yet, and that once I had my period, I would stop having panic attacks.
But these kinds of ideas about women being very difficult to understand, a mystifying puzzle, are so embedded in our medical thinking that we see them resonate when women are, for example, doubted when they try to explain their pain to a doctor or a healthcare professional, when we see women's accounts of their illnesses and diseases being distrusted, and when we see a general culture around women's pain and other illness symptoms being minimised, belittled and deprioritised.
It's just agony. Just absolute agony.
I feel like I've been on an obstacle course, I guess. There was never a doctor who actually said, this is what it is. They just shoved me to another doctor. And that's how it was for it felt like years. So I got my medical notes. They said that they thought I had body dysmorphia. And then you have to tell your family and friends, they've told me there's nothing wrong with me. So then they think you're just a hypochondriac, lazy, complaining. I can remember one moment in the last year where I felt a normal person, and I remember just bursting into tears.
I've actually seen a doctor write down before, like when I've said, like I was describing a particular headache or whatever, and they were like, so what would you rate that in terms of a 1 to 10? And I was like, at that time it was probably about an 8. And I've seen them write down 6.
It's been known for quite a few years now that black women in the UK suffer much higher rates of maternal mortality than women of other groups, and other ethnic minorities also face slightly heightened risks. And for a long time, this was just chalked up to this nebulous idea that they are different in some way. It's only been in the last couple of years that there has been some pushback to this idea that black women's bodies are different.
There's dismissal. One of the biggest examples of this for me recently has been the problem with mesh, vaginal mesh. It would cause erosion through bladder, through bowel, it eroded into the vagina. It caused people to have worse urinary symptoms. It caused things to get stuck together that shouldn't have been. And so women just weren't really, they weren't believed.
It's the same discourse which is actually positioning the problem within the woman, which allows us to position the woman as other, as outside. So we're actually seeing behaviours differently. We're seeing them through a gendered lens.